Hello everyone and welcome back to the Amscast. This is episode 3 or block 3, disc 1 block 3. And this guest I have on today, I have to thank for that way of numerating the episodes. I've stolen her idea, so thank you very much for that. And well, she is a YouTuber, she is a former councillor, she is a cartoonist, she is involved with a lot of stuff over the last couple of years, essentially, and goes under the name Gamehammer sometimes. And may I welcome to the Amscast, Zoë Kirk-Robinson. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure for having someone who's so prolific in the Amstrad community, especially when it comes to developing games, which we'll talk about later.
I look forward to it.
So, Zoë, your channel, we'll go dive straight into your channel and then we'll go back onto the Amstrad a bit. How did you get started with Gamehammer? Can you give me the genesis of Gamehammer?
Back at the start of it, I was trying to work out what I wanted to do with my channel. I'd had it for a few years by then, and my stand-up comedy hadn't worked out, which is what originally it was for. And I thought, well, I need something else to do with it because I enjoy making this stuff. So I'd done a news review sort of video thing, and that hadn't worked out. It was 3 years or so, and I just hadn't managed to get it to click with what I wanted it to be. So I thought, well, I really like games, and I like talking about games, so why don't I just do some stuff about games? And that's where Gamehammer came from.
So Gamehammer is essentially like witticisms and extended reviews of games and systems, that kind of thing, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It kind of started out as a sort of let's play, but it's now moved into short films in a review form.
Right, so yeah, so Gamehammer was essentially delving into the system, delving into the game a little bit more deeper, and obviously finding a sort of jokey pattern to sort of tell a story. Would that be sort of accurate?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I want to do a bit more than just a standard review, because anyone can just look at a review online already. I want them to have some reason to actually watch the videos. So I put a bit extra in, a bit of a story, a bit of a joke, and do it that way.
How do you feel that has progressed you instead on the channel? Because obviously you have a niche audience for that kind of thing. And how do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's a definite niche. It's one of those situations where you know you're never going to make it big unless one of the big channels basically promotes you. But if you're there just having fun, which is exactly what I'm doing, then having a niche audience isn't too bad. And I get to have a joke with people, and the people that are actually watching them after all this time are the ones that are actually interested, it's nice to have an audience like that.
It is sometimes nice to have a limited audience because you know who you're catering to.
Exactly.
And of course, if it's just, I'm assuming for you, it's just a lovely hobby to sort of do, and it gives you some self-satisfaction. You're not really after the sort of the massive views or anything like that.
Exactly. I'm not. I didn't get into YouTube looking to be famous. I got into YouTube to entertain people.
I think you do that quite well as well. You have some cutting comments.
Thank you.
You have some cutting comments when it comes to some chats as well. When you appear in some live stream chats, which it always does amuse me. We come up with some good jokes.
Well, I try. But it's my stand-up comedy background that you have to come up with ways of putting people down in a funny way, and sometimes it seeps out in the general conversation.
Yeah, that's very true. Does it? So your stand-up comedy was that sort of the thing you did in your early days then?
It's what I wanted to do, and I wanted to try and get into it ever since I was at university. So far, it hasn't worked out too well for me. It's not exactly something I could make a career of, but I still do it, and I enjoy it.
Well, as long as you enjoy it, I think that's the main thing, isn't it? I mean,
the main thing would be making the audience laugh, but I can't always guarantee that.
Well, I think that's the trials and tribulations of being a stand-up comic. I couldn't certainly do that kind of thing. I guarantee you, I couldn't do it. So hats off to you for doing that. Couldn't do it.
Thank you.
So you do focus on the good old Amstrad quite a bit on your channel, don't you?
I do. I love it.
You have a particular fondness for Mr. Roland, of course.
Well, Roland, he's just this guy.
He's a guy who takes many shapes and forms, apparently.
He does. I'm pretty sure he's not actually human. He's some sort of shapeshifter.
He's like Odo from Star Trek, isn't he?
Yes.
Yes. I gave the Star Trek reference there because I know you're a Star Trek fan as well. So.
Yes, I believe the term is a colossal nerd.
Is that it? I'm not sure. I mean,
No, the term's Trekker, but I think
Trekkie.
everyone just calls us nerds.
Yeah, I mean, I've always liked Star Trek, but I never would consider myself a Trekkie as such because I'm not into the whole thing, as it were. You know, all the merch and you know.
Ever sat down and learned Klingon?
No, 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 no. We're not going to the Big Bang Theory kind of.
Oh, well, come on, you've got to know a bit of Klingon. Everyone likes a bit of Klingon.
I have no idea. I know it sounds like I know it sounds like some sort of mutated form of Welsh, but
It's more Hebrew than Welsh. Kystak fish fadram loshad hook gebukloch. It's actually a Klingon motivational phrase. 1,000 throats could be cut in one night by a running man.
that's a charming image.
It is. It's basically a motivational phrase for a warrior race. If you put the effort in, you'll achieve excellent results.
But we can transpose that to many a human life, I'm guessing. So
Exactly. It's words to live by, or not.
So getting back to the Amstrad, we've sidetracked there with a bit of Star Trek. That's nice. All the Star Trek fans are happy now. So the Amstrad itself, was it your first computer when you got into sort of computing itself, or did you have something prior to that?
No, actually, it is my first computer, and I never chose it. My parents chose it. I came home from school one night in May. It was just before school holidays, and they bought this computer because they decided that my sister and we needed a computer. It was the computer age. Everyone was going on about them. So we had to have one. It would help with our homework and help with our schoolwork. And I think we can all think back, yeah, that's not why you got it. And I found out it wasn't. It was because my dad wanted to play Wave the Exploding Fist and Football Manager. But he got an excuse.
It's a good game. It's a good game.
Oh, they're great games. I had a lot of fun with both of them. But the excuse was, of course, well, it'll help the kids to do their homework. The moment I saw it, I was in love.
It's a similar story to a lot of Amstrad fans that I always talk to, is that it was more of a gift than a chosen item.
Yes, but I suppose at the time we would have only been young. We wouldn't have known what a computer was.
So what year was that when you got your Amstrad? I'm assuming it was a 464.
It was Amstrad CPC 464 with a green screen monitor and a bunch of games from Dixon's because it was just before the 12-pack came into Dixon's. It would have been about May 1985.
Was that the Dixon's 20-pack or 10-pack?
Something like that. Yeah, it had Harrier Attacks, Space Hawks, Roland in Time.
Was Laser Warp on that one?
Laser Warp was on there, and oh my goodness. I tell you a story. I never liked Laser Warp back at the time because it didn't seem as intense and as fun as Space Hawks.
Yeah.
But when I play it now, it's a lot of fun. There's more depth to that game than you'd expect.
I kind of like Laser Warp. I actually do have a little bit of a fondness for Laser Warp, I must admit.
It's one that's definitely grown on me over the years.
And you've done a Gamehammer episode on Laser Warp, haven't you?
I've actually done two. Yeah, I did the first one. The first ever episode I did of Gamehammer was a Let's Play style of Laser Warp, and I got to the final level and then died. So when I came back from having a break with Gamehammer and went all in on the short film style that I do now, I went back and revisited Laser Warp as if the enemy that I'd fought off in the first episode had come back to fight. So I got to do it all again.
Well, if you can revisit a favourite, then why not,
Exactly.
So, yeah, moving on from Laser Warp. So, what are some of the other earliest games that you played on the good old Amstrad?
Well, the first one that I ever saw on the Amstrad was actually, that tape that comes with the big box of Teach Yourself Basic, the one that you could buy as a separate thing.
Yes.
It had a copy of Simon on it.
Simon, like the old Tomy game, is that right?
Yeah, they did a version of that on the basic Teach Yourself thing, and that was what was loaded up when I got home from school. So that was the first game I ever saw on an Amstrad. And I'll tell you what, on a green screen monitor, it's not very good.
I was about to say, yeah, if you were using a green screen, the classic purist green screen, as it were, Simon is a colour match game, isn't it?
Yes, it is. So it wasn't exactly brilliant because, well, did that shine or not? I best press the button. Oh, it didn't.
It was just a
So
different
that was
shade
the
of.
first one I saw, and then sorry,
So it was just a different shade of green.
it was. I have to say, for a company that knew that the majority of its users were likely to have a green screen, their teach yourself books that you were encouraged to buy with the computer should have taken green screens into account, and they didn't.
You'd think they
So
would, considering that was the entry level, wasn't it?
yeah, but all the games will come and you'd load it up and say, "Are you using a green screen monitor?" And you say yes, and then they would adjust it for high contrast colors. So that was quite nice. But this thing didn't. So it was you're trying your best to try and work out what it was wanting you to press, and sometimes you get it, sometimes you wouldn't.
Yeah, because a few
But
of
then
the early.
after that, I remember insisting that my parents load up Space Hawks
Yeah.
because the cover of Space Hawks looks amazing. It's a spaceship caught in the claws of a giant space eagle.
Yes, it has got impressive artwork.
Yeah, so that was my first game that I ever chose to play, and I fell in love with it immediately. Which, of course, you would because it's a clone of Galaxian, and Galaxian is awesome.
It is. It's been quite a few decent clones of Galaxian on the Amstrad, and especially that quite recent one, Epimeteo.
Ah, I haven't played that. I'll have to look it up.
Have you never played that? It's yes, I think CNG Soft did it.
Oh, well, he's usually very good, so I'll have a look at that.
Yeah, it was very fast and very difficult.
Oh,
But
I'm not the best gamer ever, so maybe I'll just say I've seen it and it's very good, and then go back to playing the Game Boy version.
well, I think you might be a better gamer than you let on.
I've certainly had the practice. Let's put it that way.
So obviously, you started out with some of the Amsoft classics essentially here.
Yeah. You know what? They get a bad reputation, but as an introduction to gaming on a home computer, they were pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, by and large, I feel they were pretty good. Obviously, the problem is they're let down by the likes of Bridget and Home Runner and
Oh yeah.
and your personal favourite, which I'm going to mention when you. I like this. I know this gets you in a bit of a tizzy. Roland on the Run.
Oh my god, that game is not a game. I'm sorry, it's not.
I've heard you say that before.
I'm sorry. Rolling on the Run is not a game. You press some buttons, and sometimes it allows you to progress to the next bit where you press some more buttons, and sometimes it decides that no, it doesn't matter. We've already decided that you're not going to get anywhere. So today you're just going to get frustrated. It's a bad game with bad controls and graphics that induce seizures, and it does it on purpose.
It's got. Is it the Induscomp? Is it Induscomp? Isn't it? One of those, or is it the?
No, it's by the guy. Roland on the
Egyptian.
Run's by the same guy who did Bridget. It's
Yeah, it's got the same
that.
graphics. Yeah.
Yeah, he only did 2 games, and he wasn't from Egypt, if I remember correctly, but he called himself Egypt Soft.
Egypt Soft. That's it. Yeah, Egypt Soft. Epic Soft sometimes.
That's it, yeah.
Epic Soft. Yeah.
Not to be confused with Epic Games, who made that amazing classic and pinnacle of programming skill, Aliens Colonial Marines.
Oh yes. Well, that's a much later game, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah,
So,
but comparable in terms of quality.
well, yeah. In playability for sure. I'm guessing. We're not comparing the graphics, or maybe we are.
Oh, I should play it one of these. I've got a copy.
Yeah,
I
'cause
bought it because I knew it was going to go up in price, because all really terrible games do eventually. Although by the time I get round to playing it, I won't be able to afford it, so I got it. I've never played it.
Speaking of very terrible games that are very expensive, of course, one of the most famously bad games on the Amstrad is Count Duckula 2. I nearly called it something else there, which is an easy mistake to make. But yeah, that's a really expensive one when even if you can find it now. So
Well, yeah, it got, 3% in Amstrad Action, so no one bought it.
yeah,
It's expensive because it's truly rare. All the copies that were unsold got junked.
and rightly so, because it is garbage.
It's not a game. It's a violation of the Geneva Convention.
It would have been paraded in front of the Hague and tried and convicted.
Absolutely, it would. The worst part is I can see what they were going for with it, because the Spectrum version It's not brilliant, but you can play it.
Yeah, at
And then
least
you see the Amstrad version, and it's literally just the Spectrum version, only they haven't bothered to do any sort of porting. So it's just slow and it doesn't respond properly, and it's terrible.
but they managed to break it as well. I mean, at least the Spectrum version of, even though it was terrible, it wasn't broken in the same way.
Yeah, it actually worked a bit. And that's what's so frustrating because I didn't have the worst time when I played the Spectrum version, but I was pulling my eyes out just in sheer terror at what happened to the Amstrad. It's like, how could you do this to my beautiful machine?
The perils of the 80s, I guess. This is.
Which I would agree to if it wasn't out in the 90s. It's one of the later games.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. Yeah, 1992 it came out. Amazing.
Tell you, that's what killed off the Amstrad. It wasn't the fact that the Plus was poorly marketed and no one bought it. It's because Count Duckula 2 came out and killed everything.
Oh, I think when we talk about the Plus, I don't think I used to always agree with that. I used to always think it was badly marketed, but I did a bit of digging and found that Amstrad spent a lot of marketing on the Plus and the GX4000. The problem is they were just misguided in the direction of the audience they were pitching it to, and that they were still underpowered for the time.
Yeah, I remember reading an interview, and didn't Alan Sugar say it's not what's under the hood, it's what people use it for, or something like that? He knew it was underpowered.
Yeah.
It should have had either a 16-bit Z80 processor or two 8-bit Z80 processors in tandem, which would have given the ability for backward compatibility.
Yeah. Or at least had a 16-bit graphics coprocessor or something.
Go down the Mega Drive route where it's just the Z80 is an 8-bit coprocessor for maths or whatever. That would have meant an extra chip, and Alan Sugar didn't want to do that.
Good old Sugar. But we can't criticise him too much. At least he gave us the Amstrad, so.
Oh, I'll absolutely agree with that. I wasn't in the room when the business decisions were made, so I'm not going to criticise, but I do wish he had made a different decision. Just imagine it now. We could have had the Amstrad going up against the latest Apple, Mac, and PC. It could have still been in there.
Yeah. I mean, it has its own place in retro history because of its merits. But like you say, it could be in a stronger position, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Because he's recently obviously realised the popularity still of the system. I think to his amazement, it appeared on Twitter.
Yeah, it's because we all keep talking to him about it.
Yeah, and he's like, who are these people banging on about a 35-year-old computer that... I don't even know if it was... I mean, I'm not sure. Could be wrong, but do you think he was aware of the following and the games that are being produced every year? You know, the likes of CPC Retro Dev and stuff?
I honestly don't think he was until Twitter came along. We started talking to him about it. Yeah, I don't think he moves in the same circles as most of us. He was off doing his own dealings and enjoying retirement, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And then we all came along with the internet and went, Lord Sugar, we still appreciate that machine you made. I still got it.
I wouldn't have thought he would imagine that the likes of Pinball Dreams would have been remade for it, and a near arcade, a close perfect version of Ghosts and Goblins on the GX4000. Things like that are just amazing when you think about it.
Well, to be fair, I don't think most of us would have thought that would come out.
No.
It's just it's mind-boggling how they've managed it.
It is, and of course when you look at that demo of the guy that's developing a Sonic version, a port of Sonic on the GX, you think, crikey. So, how long did you have the Amstrad for then, Zoe? When did you transition to the consoles, or did you transition to the consoles? Did you go into another micro or PC, or how was that story pan out then?
For me, I had it until 1992, and actually it stayed on my desk in my bedroom alongside the computer I got after it. I didn't go to consoles. I went to the Amstrad Mega PC.
Ooh.
It was a toss-up between, do I go for the Amiga, which would have been perfectly fine, and I would have loved it, and all of my friends had one, or do I go for this thing that I actually want, which looks amazing, has a Mega Drive built in, and is a PC, so I could learn how to do stuff like word processing and write my own magazines, which is what I've been trying to do on an electric typewriter before that. So I went for the Mega PC. It took a fair amount of cajoling of my parents for them to agree to it, but eventually that's what I got as a Christmas present in 1992, and I
Wow.
never looked back.
Wow, I think you're the first person who's ever been presented a Mega PC, because that doesn't get talked about much in circles. But that was
Yeah.
it was an innovative idea. It was admittedly at the time an underpowered PC with a Mega Drive tacked into it, essentially.
Well, it was essentially an Amstrad laptop
Yeah,
computer with a Mega Drive card in it in a PC box,
yeah,
and I loved it for it. It was. I remember looking at it when it came out. Yeah, yeah, sure. It's underpowered when you know what you're talking about. But I was a kid, and this thing looked amazing. It had a megabyte of RAM, had a 40 megabyte hard drive, and I remember as a kid thinking, I'll never fill that. And then about 3 months after I got it, I was reading in a PC gaming magazine called PC Action, which is rare as hen's teeth. My goodness. It had a review of Lands of Lore, and this was an RPG with fairly basic graphics, looked a bit like Dungeon Master on the Amiga, and its system requirements quite clearly said hard drive space 40 megabytes.
wow.
So I literally could not run it.
No, no.
But yeah, that was the level. But it was an amazing machine, and I adored it.
Did you have you still got it, or did you sell it?
I wish I still had it. It got struck by lightning, and most of the computer was fine. It fried the CMOS and blew the battery.
Right.
But the CMOS turned out to be repairable, and I got that going again, and it was perfectly fine. But never got a replacement battery. My mum threw it out, saying it was broken. So I got a massive Intel Pentium 2 PC as a replacement,
Right.
and then I never heard from it again until it turned up on Retro Man Cave.
Yes, yes, I remember seeing Neil's video on that, and it was the same Mega
This,
PC. Your one, wasn't it?
yeah, it had all of the upgrades I put in it, and it was my Mega PC.
Uh,
So I'm happy to know that it went to a good home where it's going to be loved.
Now that was quite a sort of like 6 degrees of separation moment, wasn't it? That.
I literally could not believe it. I was just shocked. It's like, hang on, I recognize that.
Yeah, because I remember
But it's
Neil
like,
talking
wow.
about the upgrades, and as he was fixing the board and doing bits and pieces on it and restoring it.
Yeah,
Amazing.
it was a shock, absolute shock. I never thought I'd see that machine again.
It just proves how few of them are in the country. If that was the case, again.
Well, that is it. Just to see it turn up, I'm, all I can assume is that the guys at the tip didn't put it in the tip and went, no, that's valuable, we'll put it aside, and then probably sold it on,
Yeah.
which is what the tip people still do. You can usually go down and find some retro equipment in their sheds because they know what they're looking for. And that's how some of the retro stuff that's in my collection these days is actually still here.
Yeah,
So it's good to know that these things happen.
yeah, you just need to find that people like put things aside. Maybe one
Yeah,
day that might come in handy, and lo and behold, it does.
yeah.
When you said it was, I wasn't expecting you to say it was struck by lightning. I thought you were going to discourse into a sort of Johnny Five story there.
No, unfortunately, we had an amazingly large storm, and thunder got there as I was going around the house, pulling things out of the walls. And then I went, hang on, my computer's still on. And then lightning hit the house.
Ah, and
Yeah,
fried everything, I guess.
yeah. Thankfully, it blew the fuse. Excuse me, it blew the fuse, it blew the CMOS battery,
Mm.
and I think I lost a few things that I was running at the time on the hard drive. The majority of the computer was salvageable, so
That's
there we are.
it's quite astounding that it actually survived a sort of power surge of that magnitude. To be honest, but
To be honest with you, yeah, I was shocked. I thought it was going to be completely gone, but there we are. We're booted back up.
well, I tell you what, going from a CPC to a Mega PC, wow, that's the first time I've ever heard someone who had their Amstrad even go on to a Mega PC, because generally that sort of missed out and they'll sort of jump to maybe an Amiga, like you said you were tempted with an Amiga.
I was. But I'll tell you what, the Amiga is a gorgeous machine, and
Hmm.
it's so good. I decided, no, I want to do my magazines, so I went for a PC.
It is. It is a great machine. Yeah, I'm
Mm.
installing one myself. More complicated than I ever thought it would be for certain things, but yeah. So
Well,
used.
it's all those processors, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
got more chips in than it needs.
I'm so used to repairing 8-bit machines and used to that kind of stuff. So, but when you obviously when you were still with before your PC, then you got into programming as well, didn't you?
I did, yes. I wrote several games for the Amstrad, even when it was still a going concern. I had my own little PD library, which was called Technol PC, which was short for technology.
Right.
And wasn't the most popular library ever, but it did have a few unique games, Troll, Treble N, The Life of Nobty Mouse, and a few others that people haven't ever heard of, which basically means that the tapes that are still in my attic are the rarest games on the Amstrad.
You can proudly say that, yes.
I can proudly say they're not worth playing.
So that you just said a name there, Knob T Mouse. Now that leads us on quite nicely to your comic strip, your online comic strip. Now, stop me if I'm wrong, but I read on your bio that your online comic strip is the one of the oldest and longest online comic strips. Would that be correct? Maybe one of the first, even.
It's the first web comic from the UK,
Ah,
and this either the 16th or the 17th web comic overall, depending on when the other one from the same month actually started. If the other one, which I can't remember the name of, started on the 5th of December or before, and it's the 16th. And
hmm.
if it was after, then it's the 17th. It's just one of those things we don't actually know anymore.
But it's
But it's really really old.
really old, and you still do that now. Is that right? Is that right?
It's on a break at the moment, but it will be coming back. Yeah,
Because you
it's
have
one of
your.
those where. Sorry, go on.
So I was going to say, because you have your other comic strip as well, don't you?
I do. So I kind of bring Knob Mouse back for an occasional run of comics because I can't do everything all the time. So it's the one that never really made it as a success. So it gets somewhere whenever I have the time. And my
Right.
other one is all over the house, and that's the one that I really go hard in on.
So all over the house is like a political satire. Would that be correct?
It is, yeah. It's like it's a bit like if Yes Minister was in the internet age and
Yes.
had loads of monsters in it, and everyone was completely thick. That's the kind of level that it's at.
So it's like Yes Minister meets Nemi meets the Far Side.
Yeah, meets H.P. Lovecraft.
Yes. Yes.
The monsters are entirely taken from H.P. Lovecraft's style, with the tentacles and the weird sea monster like style to them. So
Yeah.
it's got definite homages, but it's a lot of fun to do.
It's quite surreal, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's always been my humor style,
Yeah.
surrealism. Knob Mouse is far more surreal than All of the House.
Mm.
Being set as a political drama kind of grounds All of the House a bit more.
Yeah. Yeah. What was the genesis behind Knob T Mouse then? Because it's a very should we say double entendre name.
It is. Well, that's what happens when the original character's invented when you're 8.
Right.
He's a very old character. It's just something I've been drawing ever since I was about 8 years old in school. It's based, you know, those little sticky feet bug things that you
Yeah.
get with a little slogan on a ribbon.
Oh
He
yes.
was,
Yeah.
yeah, he was one of them.
Right.
That was the original genesis of the idea for him. He was a little sticky foot bug that was shaped like a mouse, and that's where he comes from. He's lost a lot of the characteristics of that bug over the years, so he doesn't have the ears and he doesn't have the tail anymore, but he's still the same
Yeah.
basic character.
Is the I don't want to go into a sort of like black hole here, but to me, it does have a kind of a phallic nature about it as well.
Oh yeah, that's what the name is.
Yeah, I thought that might be.
What can I say? I was 8 years old when I named him, and back then, that's the kind of humor that
So,
really that was really appreciated on the school grounds.
so, let's draw a mouse character shaped like a penis. Is that correct?
Yeah, pretty much. And we'll call him Knob. And then
Just Yeah.
That's just how it developed.
And it still exists to this day. Well, it's kind of in your face, I guess.
Yeah. The funny thing is that when I read, I think it's the Lord of the Rings, one of the hobbits in Bree is called Nob. So I thought, oh well, I'm in good company.
What does the T stand for? Testicles.
His middle name is the
Nob the mouse. I see. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh dear.
Like I say, I was 8. It seemed funny at the time. It's just stuck.
Well, if it's still stuck now, and you're still got wanting to sort of like write more surreal adventures for it, I guess old ideas don't die hard, do they?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm 30 odd years later, and it's not funny anymore. But I kind of can't change it now. It's been gone too long.
Yeah, because you had it as your icon for a while on your YouTube channel, didn't you? Before you got your nice anime one.
Yeah, it's a very eye-catching image if you just have the yellow background with the eyes and the nose.
Mm.
Yeah, people spot it.
It wasn't put on any of your games though, because obviously you publish some of your games. Would that be correct?
Yeah. These days I don't tend to publish them so much as just put them out for free for people to download. But yeah, he used to be a symbol in some of my stuff with the PD library, and he was in some of the games that we did. So he's been about, and yeah, he was kind of the icon for the publishing house.
He's got his eye around. Oh, yes, he was, because your publishing house, we're going to get onto that. It's All Mouse Media, is that correct?
It is, yeah. It's all over the house and Life of Nopty Mouse together as All Mouse.
And you publish your comic graphic novels and your
Yep.
wife's books as well, is that correct?
It is, yeah. The reason that we put it together was no one wants to take on graphic novels and comics unless they're from a highly established person who's already got an audience. And the fact of the matter is these days, the average person doesn't need a publishing house to get by. So if you can get by on your own with a large audience, you actually don't need the publisher. So we just went, well, what's the point in waiting for them to come up and say, yeah, you're already selling. We can just sell ourselves.
You can just self-publish.
Yeah, so we set up All Mouse Media, and we've been going at it ever since.
Have you ever had other books published from any other authors, graphic novelists, or anything like that, or is it just you and your wife?
There was going to be another artist involved. He was creating a comic about being a new father and all of his wacky adventures with his kid. And then life caught him up with it because his kid got a bit older. And he wasn't able to continue that. So it's just Jen and I at the moment. But you never know. In the future, we might be able to bring on other people. That'd be nice if we could.
Well, yeah, indeed. It's a nice little endeavour to have on the side of everything else that you do.
Absolutely.
Of course. And of course, recently you were very... last 5 or 6 years, you've been very busy as well outside of YouTube and graphic novels and all that kind of stuff into more serious stuff. Which I believe you were one of the councillors for, is it Westborough?
So you've broken up a little bit there.
So I believe you were one of the councillors, a Conservative councillor for one of the Bolton areas?
Yes, West Horton, North and Chewmoor.
What a title.
I know. I was so proud when I got when I was elected, because like, wow, all these people are putting me, a comedian, in charge of their town. And then someone brought me down to earth with it a little bit by saying, that sounds like a direction and a good piece of advice.
Yes.
It's like Doncaster North and brush your teeth.
Now, I'm baffled to how, given your roots in like the gaming and stuff, stand-up comedians, your artistry, how did you get into politics like that?
A lot of politics, especially my sort of politics, comes from looking at what's going on in an area and thinking, oh, someone's got to stand up and say, this is wrong and it needs to change. And my comedy comes from the point of view of, I know what's wrong and I'm going to tell you about it whether you want it or not. So it kind of joins together. It's something that I put into my last stand-up show. It's like, comedians and politicians have very similar skills. Because you've got to have a massive ego and also need other people to boost you up and make sure that you've got the self-confidence. So it's like you have to be one of those crazy people. you think you can do everything right, but you need a bit of backup and people to say, yes, you're the person, which is what politicians get from votes and comedians get from laughter. And it literally is the best kind of politician is one that wants to make people happy, which is exactly what a comedian does as well.
Yes. Well, they are similar. I get what you're saying. A comedian basically sees the world in black and white essentially, and cuts through all the nonsense.
Yeah.
So, I get what you mean, and of course, because of that and the way proper comedians do that, they've obviously, especially in recent times, unfortunately, there've been silence, which is not fun. But I guess, yeah, that's an extension. So essentially, going into politics is an extension of that.
These days, politics has gone weird, and it needs the kind of person who's willing to deal with what are essentially just really loud internet hecklers to cut through all of the mess that we've got. Because right now, people are genuinely upset about things. They have a right to be upset, but they don't have a right to tell other people that they can't be upset about the things that they're not upset about.
Exactly, because there's a minority of people, especially on social media, that want to shout and insult and basically denigrate anybody that hasn't got an opinion that matches them.
Yes, I remember seeing what someone said one time. The average person on social media doesn't want to hear your opinion. They want to hear their opinion, but they want to hear you say it.
Echo chamber.
Exactly, and that's no good for anyone. So you need the kind of person who's got the mentality of, yeah, I hear what you're saying and I don't care. I'm going to tell you what you have to hear.
Yeah, yeah. And I just think that's more important. That more voices like you with that attitude to say what you want, when you need to. I think that's very important to have that.
I agree. I wish there were more.
Oh, so do I. We're going all serious now. So
yeah, the biggest problem with that kind of thing is, though, so many people are scared to speak up.
Yes.
So you end up with a minority of a minority.
Yeah, but they're scared. The thing is, I feel they're scared to speak up for a reason, because they feel they'll be silenced, they'll be cancelled, they might lose their job, they might lose their friends or family, and it can. Yeah. It's a horrible thing for someone to sort of like have a valid opinion and then get completely snowballed like that.
Yeah, and that's the worst part. So what if what I'm saying is right, but no one wants to hear it?
Yes.
Which is why you've got to have the kind of point of view I have, which is I'm going to say it anyway, and if there's a problem, I'll deal with that later.
That's right. And I think on that note, we'll leave it right there, because I think the serious stuff we've dealt with now.
Fair enough. Time for the custard pies.
Yes, exactly. Send in the clowns. So getting back,
they're already here.
Well, yes, I think they were. Especially on my channel, they are.
But yeah, the comedy is exactly what people need as well. Yes. If you can't laugh at yourself, then what's the point?
Exactly that. Yeah, and I think many gaming YouTube channels try to put that element of comedy into them, and I know you certainly do. I try to, but not very well.
Funny enough, I think the same thing with mine. I try my best, but people won't agree. The best you can do is the best you can do.
Exactly. So getting back to the games, getting back to systems and stuff, you are also a big fan of the PlayStation 2, am I wrong?
Oh, you are not wrong. I adore the PlayStation 2. I honestly think it's the best machine of the last 10, 20 years. But yeah, my goodness, it came out in 2000. It's 20 years old.
Yeah, it's
doesn't time fly?
It is transcended to be one of the probably greatest consoles ever made and ever sold.
Yeah, and when you think about what it looks like, it's a machine that looks a bit like you've stuck two pieces of plastic together and hope for the best, and they didn't line up properly. And you basically sold it to people on the basis that it was a DVD player that was cheaper than most DVD players, and somehow you succeeded.
It did, and succeeded massively as well. It's still today, the best-selling console of all time.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to get beaten anytime soon, because I don't see consoles lasting in their current form.
Yeah, it has that feeling in the ether that the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X are going to be the last of them.
Yeah, I honestly think it's about time that they decided on whether they were just going to have one system. They're basically PCs already.
Yeah.
So let's have one system, and you make your games, we make ours, and we'll make our own versions of the system. But they're basically the same thing. That's what it's kind of going toward. It's like a standard, only instead of agreeing to a standard, it's just convergent evolution.
But that would be actually revisiting an old idea that's been done, well, tried several times. We're talking about the MSX initially. Obviously, PCs and the IBM compatible. And of course, the legendary 3DO.
Oh my goodness, I must get a 3DO at one point to see what the fuss was about. They always came across as really good looking machines.
It is wonderful
but
looking.
So expensive.
I have a Panasonic FD1, and it's a beautiful machine to look at. It really is.
I've never seen one in the flesh. I'm from an area that's people wouldn't have spent that kind of money on it. You could buy 4 of them or a house, and people would prefer the house.
Well, it wasn't expensive as a Neo Geo, I guess. So,
my goodness, the Neo Geo. What were they thinking?
I used to read computer and video games. I'm sure you did as well.
Yeah, I did, especially the Thundercats comic that was in it for a while.
And I remember when they started putting the Neo Geo on the front and reviewing the Neo Geo games and thinking, wow, these things absolutely look amazing. And then you saw the price point and you thought,
they would cost almost as much as a computer.
Well, honestly,
it was ridiculous.
At the time, you could buy a car almost.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It was. Talk about a very, very niche machine.
If you think about it, with inflation, those prices are even higher now. You were looking at, if I remember correctly, the Intellivision was about £1,000 in modern money.
Yeah.
And the Neo Geo made the Intellivision look cheap.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's and of course we're talking about the AES. We're not even talking about the MVS, which was even more expensive.
Yeah, if you had an MVS, it was basically to go on your personal yacht.
Yes. Yeah. It's either you can have this flat or an arcade machine where you can change the boards. That's it.
Yeah. And part of me wants to be realistic and say, well, I'll take the flat. But I think we all know I'd have taken the Neo Geo.
Well, what you did take was the PlayStation 2, and I'm sure you don't regret that. How did you come across the PlayStation 2 then? Did you get it on launch, or...?
I didn't. I was very much a PC gamer, and ever since I got the Mega PC, I've been a PC gamer. I adored stuff like Civilization and Railroad Tycoon and X-Wing. I was very much into those.
Oh,
so good.
You just actually mentioned X-Wing, TIE Fighter and X-Wing. Oh.
Yeah. Oh, I lost months of my life to those games. And because of that, I was very much in deep on the PC. So I was talking to friends about what would it take to get me into consoles. Yeah. And I said to them, look, I like Grand Theft Auto on the PC. So if they manage to do a Grand Theft Auto that's maybe 3D and it's fun like that, and that comes out on a console, I'll consider the console.
Right.
And then, literally, we walked into a shop. The first thing I saw in that shop was PlayStation 2 official magazine, Grand Theft Auto 3. And I thought, oh, there you are, PlayStation 2. That's the one for me. And you know what? I've not looked back since.
Grand Theft Auto 3 was your deciding moment. Then that was at the point when you went to consoles.
Yeah, I saw that and went, well, that's it. That's what I need. I need the PlayStation so I can play that game. And when I got the game, I thought, what on earth have I been missing out on? Because it was just perfect. The controller is perfect.
Yeah.
Games just work. You don't need to fiddle on with them. You plug it in, press the button, and it goes. I was in love immediately.
Wow. I don't think I've ever interviewed anyone that's gone straight from PCs directly to a PlayStation 2. They've always had, say, a Nintendo or a Mega Drive in the middle there somewhere.
But I did have the Mega Drive via the Mega PC.
Oh yes, but I mean the console on its own.
Yeah, a lot of my friends had them, and they were wonderful. They couldn't switch over and do their homework on it.
No, but I suppose that's a good thing for them, I guess.
Yeah, they probably enjoyed that, but I'm a nerd. I wanted to do my science, all my science reports with graphs and things, and then go and
Hmm.
play Sonic.
Well, you could have had your
So I was
CPC
able
and
to do
used
that.
Mini Office too.
I actually had Mini Office 2,
So did
and I
I.
didn't like it.
I used to do graphs on it for fun, essentially, for my homework because I never had a dot matrix printer, so I couldn't print anything out.
Yeah, I did the same thing before I got a printer. I would set up with the bar charts and the pie charts and get all the information, and I would just draw it by hand into stuff.
Yeah, that's what we did
It
back then.
worked.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, exactly, it did. Yeah. So you've got quite an extensive PlayStation 2 library collection, haven't you?
Yeah, just a bit. 76% of the entire PAL system.
And that
So
is a massive library to get from. To have 76% of how many games? Couple of
at last count, 2,253 games in total for the entire PAL set. But the problem is, no one can say for sure because no one's got a full list of what's available. The
Right.
the big lists that I've seen online don't include some of the games that I've actually got physically in my hand.
Like some
So
of the crappy
no one
budget
knows for
stuff.
sure yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, the weird stuff that no one really expected to have been produced, but Phoenix Games or Midas or
Yeah.
Blast or whoever put it out.
Yes. Yeah. Midas and Blast. Yeah. Midas produced a lot of budget stuff, didn't they?
Midas produced some absolute tosh, and
Oh
also
yes.
some of the best games that I ever played.
Um.
It was very much hit or miss.
Yeah. They did one of the. Did it? Is it Midas that did that? Really? Yeah. They did a really bad tennis simulation game. It's
Yeah, that
dreadful.
sounds about right.
Um.
Everyone did a tennis game. Midas had a couple of them. Was it Tennis Court Smash or something like that? Ugh, it's not good.
International Tennis Pro, I think it's called. And I think it's. I
Yes,
reviewed it
I'm
actually.
looking. I'm looking at it right now on my shelf.
It is a
International Tennis Pro. Give me a moment. I'll make sure it's them.
yeah. It's got someone making
Yep,
a
it's
smash.
Midas.
It is Midas.
It is Midas.
Mm.
Oh, it's all coming back now that I'm looking at it.
They are the
Oh dear.
Midas, the Mastertronic of the PlayStation 2 era.
You take that back. Mastertronic did some good stuff.
They did, but they were really known for some of their budget turds though as well. Let's be
They
honest.
were, and then somehow managed to get hold of the license to do the Master System.
They did, didn't they? Yeah, God.
Sega
Well,
massively screwed them over on that, though. Oh my goodness! You can distribute the Master System in England, but we're only going to give you the units on Boxing Day.
yeah, yeah. They really liked Codemasters though. Sega did, didn't they? So
Yeah, Codemasters were good though.
yeah. Well,
Although
majority of their
no,
stuff.
these days, oh
Well,
my goodness, these days all they seem to do is Formula One.
it's amazing to think that they are. Well, they're still going. I think they're still British as well.
Yeah, they produce the Formula One games, and they're far too realistic for their own good.
It's weird when you think back of some of the publishing houses that have either been swallowed up by the bigger publishing houses, or amazingly you find out they're still going. And
Yeah,
I mean, when I discovered that alternative software are still going, I was
really? Oh my goodness, what are they doing?
yeah, I was like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, this wacky idea I got of collecting all the alternative software games on the Amstrad. I thought, well, I'm never going to get a list. The fact that they are still there, they're active on Twitter, and they do mobile games essentially.
Ah, I can see how they would have jumped. Yeah, that's actually not a bad niche for them to go into. A lot of the mobile games are still a haven for smaller developers, small groups of people, and some of the bigger companies as well. So if you've got a background in making these games for home computers, and it was always a small development team,
Mm.
the mobile market is a perfect niche to go into. It's essentially the same sort of thing.
And on their website, they proudly say that they're 35 years old, and yeah, they are. It's amazing.
My
It's
goodness.
nice to see that when some of the classic publishing houses have been swallowed up and forgotten nowadays.
Yeah, there's hardly any left. DMA Design became Rockstar by getting
Yeah,
eaten up.
yeah,
Most people either went into EA or Infogrames.
yeah. Gremlin got swallowed up, didn't they? I forget who
Yeah,
now.
Gremlin became Eidos, didn't they?
Eidos, and then that was to do with, and then Titus as well was involved in that.
Yeah, and now they're all part of what is it?
Square.
Yeah.
Square Enix now, aren't they?
Oh.
So,
but
Square
more things change.
Yes, indeed. What were some of your favourite games on the PlayStation 2 then? And also, we'll talk about getting back to the Amstrad. Some of your favourite games on the Amstrad as well.
Let's see. For the PlayStation 2, my go-to game is always Outrun 2006 Coast to Coast.
That's a good game.
I absolutely adore that game. The Metal Slug Anthology. So you got all the Metal Slugs. They were great fun. Although, to be honest with you, it's just Neo Geo.
Yeah.
And now I'm sitting here looking at them all. I can't think of any others, but Leap Pinball Classics.
Oh, I've got that. That's actually a really good pinball game, that.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And the fact that you use the bumper buttons on the controller as the bumpers. I love it.
Yeah,
it's perfect.
Really, really good pinball game. That some of my personal favourites on the PlayStation 2, because I've got a big love for the PlayStation 2 as well. So second to my Amstrad collection, it's very similar to you in a way. It's my second biggest collection. And some of my favourites, I don't know whether you would like some of these, but the Burnout series I loved.
Oh, yes. Burnout 3. Oh, it's perfect.
Amazing. It's a wonderful, wonderful game. Yeah, Burnout 3, funnily enough, I actually missed and went straight to Burnout 4.
Oh.
Back in the day.
Well, at least you came back eventually.
Yeah, I came back. I burned out, should we say, Burnout 1 and Burnout 2. That was terrible, wasn't it?
I'm not gonna judge your comedy. That's for you to decide.
That was just awful. I'll give myself a tumbleweed for that. Yeah, that's the one. And then of course that it sort of ended. I mean, Burnout Dominator was brilliant.
I still like Paradise.
Paradise, yes.
I still play it on the 360.
Yeah, I never played Paradise a lot, to be honest. But
oh, I love it. And then after Paradise, I went straight on to Forza Horizon 4, and it's like a spiritual sequel. It's so good.
But that's we're going into Xbox now, aren't we?
Oh yeah, I do jump around, but I can't settle down on one console. You know, it's just there's so many choices.
There were hundreds, in fact. We'll talk about modern consoles in a sec. So back to the PlayStation 2. I thought Gran Turismo 3 was wonderful.
Yes, trying to race a Mini around the Nürburgring on Gran Turismo 3 was so much fun.
Yeah, I thought that was a rather wonderful game, and there's so many that R-Type Final, love that.
You know, I'm not sure I've played that. Give me 1 second. Which R-Type do I have? I've just got to quickly look around for it.
You must have it in your collection.
I have an R-Type, but I can't remember which one I have. I can't find it on the shelf.
The one on the where you might have the, because on the PlayStation 2 you've got R-Type Final. So you've also got R-Types, which is 1 and 2 on the PlayStation 1, and R-Type Delta on the PlayStation 1 as well.
Yeah, I'm getting confused. It is R-Type Final that I've got, and I actually did a review on it, and I should have remembered that.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there's 2 R-Types on PlayStation 2, and I couldn't remember which one I had. But it is R-Type Final.
R-Type Final,
it's so good.
It is. It's a great game. There's so many games on the PlayStation 2 to talk about, though, isn't there? That's the thing. We could sort of talk for hours about the PlayStation 2.
Oh, we'd be here for days. It's just a ridiculous, and the amount of collections of classic games.
Yes.
So many. The Midway Treasures ones, the
Sega
title collections. Sega had loads. Capcom had loads. Atari's on there, and Intellivision's on there.
I've got that. I've got the. In fact, I've got that right. I'm staring at it right now. The Intellivision, Television Arcade Hits, I think it's called.
Intellivision Lives.
Intellivision Lives. That's it. Yes.
Which, funnily enough, doesn't have an exclamation mark after that. It should be Intellivision Lives, but it's not.
Well, it didn't. The problem is, it didn't live after the hyper scan.
Yeah.
Which was terrible. So, getting back to Amstrad, your favourite games on the Amstrad. I mean, what did you think of the movie tie-ins, the arcade ports? Anything them grab your fancy?
Oh yeah, I had a few of those, and the main one I remember is RoboCop.
Mm.
Not fun, not necessarily because the RoboCop was such a good game. I mean, it was. The bit that always sticks in my head is I saw an advert for it in Amstrad Action. Pulled out the old coins from my money box and went to my dad and said, "Dad, can you write away for this?"
Mm-hmm.
So he sent a check off to Hit Squad from their advert saying, "Can my daughter have this game, please?" And, it wasn't even a mail order advert. It was just saying the game is out. Go and buy it.
Oh,
But they
right.
sent it. They sent it to me.
Blimey. I mean, that was a Hit Squad release as well, you say?
Yeah, the Hit Squad one. I've still got it as well. It's such a good game.
It is. It is. It's really, really good port. It ported well to both that and the Spectrum. So,
Yeah, which is really good of it because not all arcade games transferred so well. But that one, they just went all out for it, and it's perfect.
it's very, very good. There's some really good arcade ports. I've spoken about the usual suspects, such as Chase HQ and Rainbow Islands.
Rainbow Islands is so hard.
Very good.
I still can't finish it. I've been playing it for decades. I can't finish it.
It is a tricky game. It certainly is. Yeah.
It really is. Yeah, it's just one of those things. It's just oh my goodness. Yeah, it's still fun to play. But the Ed the Duck, I had that as a kid and absolutely loved it as a kid. I come back to it now and I can't get past the fact that it's a massive, massive downgrade from Rainbow Islands, which is what it's ripping off.
Yeah, I can't work out Ed the Duck. I've got 2 copies of it somehow. Um, I've got it because I've got its original twin cassette, twin cassette case release, but I've also got the alternative software re-release for it.
I have neither. I have the ridiculously oversized case version from John Menzies.
Oh, yes.
So, you picked up a card with the game on and you told them which version you wanted, and they recorded it onto a tape there for you.
Oh, my word. I forgot they did that. Machine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, with some of the copyright protection, that would be so not allowed.
No, these days you just not get away with it. So let me get this straight. You want to allow a download service where you pirate the tapes for people who give you money?
That's right. Yeah. Nothing with that.
It was a weird system, but it worked.
But
apparently it was massive in France.
All that kind of thing was the genesis of how popular games became on the Amstrad and the Spectrum and the Commodore, of course, as well, especially over here in Europe.
Yeah. So you just couldn't store them all. There wasn't the space. If you wanted to cover a large range of titles, you either had a huge shop or you went the John Menzies route, which was, we're going to have some cards you can pick up and it'll tell you which versions we've got, and then you can make a copy of it.
Yeah. It's quite a good solution, really, for the time, and I think it would have got a lot of fledgling developers off the ground as well, because they could just write their games and sell them to the to the publishing houses, and the publishing houses would then just get them copied by Menzies.
Yeah, it cuts out the middle. It's essentially Steam on the physical copies.
Yes, I guess it is. Yes, I guess it is.
Like we said earlier, the more things change, the more they stay the same.
That's true. Yes, and of course, the more rules come in, the less fun we have as well. It appears.
Yeah, sometimes.
So moving on to modern, you mentioned Xbox earlier. What kind of modern gaming are we into? Are we back into the PCs now, or are we still a console girl?
I have a PC, but it's a laptop, and I only use it for retro games. The majority of games these days, I don't want to be upgrading all the time or trying to find the best some type of system and building something up myself. I just don't have the time anymore with all the work I'm doing. So if I go for a modern game, it's on a console, and that's at the moment for me is the Xbox One. And I know it's not the popular one, and it gets a lot of people saying, "Oh, it's not as good," and maybe it's not, but I like it.
It also proves that you do jump around, because you are hardcore PlayStation, and then now into the Xbox, which is great.
Yeah, but the thing about it is, it's backward compatible with the 360, which is backward compatible with the original Xbox. And I already had an original Xbox because I wanted to play Blinks the Time Sweeper, because I am that one person who liked Blinks the Time Sweeper. So
You
I've kind of stuck with it since then.
there's got to be one. There's got to be one. You know.
Tell you what, though, I went out one time into my local branch of Game, or was it Electronics Boutique? It was Electronics Boutique, and on the wall near where the PlayStation stuff was the demo system for the Xbox, and it had Blinks the Time Sweeper on.
Mm.
Saw it and I went, "That looks good. That looks like a modern version of the type of game that I loved on the Amstrad.
Mm.
Bright coloured, it looks weird, and the machine on it is far bigger than it needs to be. It's like the modern Amstrad." I fell in love with the game and bought the computer. Sorry, not the computer, the console,
The
just to play
console.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
Well,
came with Halo, so I was actually quite set.
Halo. Yeah. I mean, to be honest, Halo's pretty good. I like Halo. I do Halo. do like Halo. I've got to admit. I've
Yeah,
got.
I'm playing it through it at the moment on the Master Chief Collection.
I do have
Still a good game.
I do have a soft spot for that. I've got to admit. Not many Xbox games do I have a soft spot. You've mentioned two of them, Halo being one of them, and Forza being another. So I also like Project Gotham as well.
Project Gotham is great. That game actually sold me on Xbox Live because Project Gotham 2, I got the version that came in the box with the Xbox Live trial and the headset and all that. A friend and I spent an entire weekend playing it to the point where I actually lost the feeling in one of my hands due to the vibration. I'm not sure. I actually got worried about that. It took me days to get it back.
Got a bit of RSI, did you, for that?
Yeah, a lot of
White knuckle kind of thing.
street workers who, yeah, vibration
Yes.
white finger from using the jackhammers.
Yeah, that's right.
I
Yeah,
got
yeah.
that. Not supposed to be able to do that, but
From
I
an
did.
Xbox controller.
From gripping it too hard, going round corners.
I remember getting that from playing on the JY2 on the Amstrad.
Oh my goodness, that thing. Daley Thompson's joystick breaker.
Yeah, well, yeah, but the JY2
Yeah.
would just break anyway. But
That's true. You got it out if you got it out of the box wrong, it was broken.
yeah, you needed a decent joystick to play a bit of daily, certainly, and a bit of track and field as well. That's something along those lines.
That's why I got the cheetah bug. I remember Amstrad Action said it has micro switches and a metal core. And I thought, well, that's perfect. So I got a cheetah bug.
I have got a cheetah bug directly opposite me. It's what came with my Amiga.
Wow, I never used it on the Amiga.
It's really clicky, isn't it? Really loud.
Oh, it's so loud.
Yeah.
It still works.
It's an interesting. I don't know about you, but I've always veered away from handheld joysticks. With joypads, it's fine, but handheld joysticks like the Conic Speed King, that was a really popular one. I never got on with that.
Well, I know what you mean. Because a guy smashed my finger when I was 9. I have trouble holding controllers, and anything that's the wrong shape, I just can't hold it because I can't bend one of the joints in my finger.
Yeah.
So I prefer something that's on the table, like a proper big arcade stick you can just place down and play. But luckily enough, the cheetah bug fits around the fact that I've got this damage on my hand, and I can play it perfectly fine.
I suppose
So I like that one.
Yeah. Well, it has certainly an odd or ergonomic shape, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I guess the DualShock also fits perfectly in your hands as well.
Not really, but I've been playing PlayStation long enough to have got used to it, and I know where to position the broken joint so that I don't have to put any pressure on it. It's just one of those things that you have to deal with when you've got these problems.
I've always found, well, you mentioned earlier, I always found that the DualShock 2 was really comfortable to use.
Yeah, the size is perfect for most people's hands.
Yeah.
The one I had the most problem with is the Dreamcast and the original Xbox Duke.
Oh, that's massive. Yes.
They're both massive, but
Yeah.
the problem is that the backs of them aren't as ergonomic as something like the DualShock, where it's got a curve that fits right down the line of your palm. Duke and the Dreamcast ones don't. It's just like plastic, and it's a big lump, and it just doesn't work for me.
I can't get on with a Dreamcast controller. I've got to admit, I'm not too bad with the Duke, but certainly the Dreamcast controller and the N64 controller. I could not get that one at all.
I actually have no problem with the N64 because, again, the curve on the palm of your hand, the big bits of plastic, they just fit perfectly into my hand. So, although it's an unwieldy, weird-looking controller, I've never had a problem holding it.
Yeah, it's much of a muchness a lot for other people, don't they? I mean, they can pick up like an NES controller and not get cut by its square edges and stuff.
Oh,
What do you think of the GX4000
the
pad?
I've never held one.
You never held one?
No, they're rare. It's hard to get hold of one.
Not rare.
Yeah, or I can't get one.
Have you ever held a PC Engine controller?
Nope.
They're kind of similar to that in a way.
They do look very similar. I've seen the photos, and my goodness, they do look similar, almost as if one's copying the other.
Yeah, its outward shape is similar. Obviously, its construction is obviously not as good as the PC Engine, but yeah. Speaking of other systems such as the N64, the PC Engine, and stuff like that, when did you get involved in some of these later on down the line? Was that part of the channel, or did you experience them through emulation, or?
A bit of both. I went from the Mega PC to a standard Pentium PC, and then onto the PlayStation 2. And once I had that, actually no, even before that, while I still had the Mega PC, I was at a car boot sale and managed to get a Super Nintendo with Super Mario World, Mario Kart, and Star Fox. And that's all I had for years for the Super Nintendo. But then again, I only wanted the Super Nintendo to play Star Fox, so
3
I was
excellent
happy.
games.
Yeah, wonderful games. Kept me going all the way through university. After university, because I had the PlayStation 2, and one of my housemates had a GameCube with Tony Hawk's 3, which was fantastic, I decided, well, I'm going to have a look at what the GameCube's about. So I got one of those. And then I saw Blinks at the game shop and got the Xbox. And after that, I thought, well, I've got 3 of the 4 from this generation. I might as well get a Dreamcast as well. And that's where it starts. Because there's always that point where you think, no, I'm in control. I could stop at any time I want. And then you don't. Yeah. So you just keep buying more and more stuff. So now I've got the Mega Drive, the N Joypad, which is a Nintendo Famicom clone, N64, and even a Sega Saturn I managed to track down a couple of years ago, which has some great games.
Yes.
Really underrated system, that. And I've just kept going from that. I recently bought an MSX, but it's the weird MSX from Yamaha that you can attach a keyboard to, and it's got an FM synthesizer and a MIDI system in it, which is really lovely. And at some point, I'll get told off by my other half because I keep buying this stuff.
Retro tech. Loads of it.
Yeah. I'm filling my little office. And at some point, I won't be able to get in anymore.
Just be full up. Absolutely, completely full up.
Yeah, in fact, you open the door, it's like, no, you can't come in. It's just full of games.
Yeah, full of games, full of systems. And then you can all be put on emulation.
It can, but it's not the same.
No, you're right. I agree.
And the thing is that I'm always worried because I grew up with the emulation of the Amstrad emulators and stuff on the PC, and I always thought, well, it's almost right, but it's not quite. And now it doesn't matter how good the emulation is. In the back of my head, it's always telling me, but it's not right. So I prefer the original hardware.
The most obvious thing about emulation of any kind, especially with the Amstrad and some of the 8-bits, is always the audio that lets it slide a little bit.
Yeah, I have the advantage of being deaf, so I can't quite tell if the audio is a little bit off. Yeah. And it's way off and it's crackly and I can't understand what's going on. Yeah, obviously. But it's an advantage that if it's slightly off, I probably won't notice. It's when it slows down or it takes that little bit too long to process something.
Yeah.
And it always tells me in the back of my head, like, that's not real.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and sometimes though it's actually quicker than it is quicker than the original hardware, and that's another sort of thing that sort of takes you out of the zone, as it were.
Yeah, that used to be a massive problem with early PC games, because the PC gaming, it wasn't always a case of, right, this is programmed with the wait time built in. No, they just timed their games to the clock speed of the system. So if you didn't have a PC AT, which you wouldn't because you were gaming on a 386. It was far too fast, and all games became unplayable.
Yeah, it's strange that they wouldn't have thought to address that issue.
Yeah, these days you can, of course. DOSBox, you can set the number of cycles, and you just reduce the cycles down to a minimum, and then you can play these little games. But back in the day, there wasn't anything like that. So you loaded your old game up on a 386, and you just couldn't play it.
It was just too quick. Yes.
Yeah.
There was some
Rathar is the one that comes to mind for that. Oh my goodness, that game. I reviewed it a while back, and it's a Spanish game that came out on the Amstrad, and it's a great game on the Amstrad. It's absolutely unplayable outside of an emulator on PC.
Really?
It's just ridiculous. Yeah, you cannot play Rathar on the PC unless you have supercomputer level reflexes.
Because it's just running way too fast.
Yeah, it's tied to the cycles of a PC-AT, which no one has.
I think it's Yaya Kung Fu. It seems to run way too quickly than what it should be running on a Commodore.
Oh, now you mention it, yeah, the enemies get too difficult to fight, don't they?
Yeah, and you think, why is it running so fast? It's just it's too fast for the game, and it's maybe a bit of an anomaly, that is. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that does seem a bit weird because you'd have thought they'd have tested it.
Yeah, game testing back then. Come on.
It loads, ship it.
Yeah, we've programmed it. We got to sell it. We just whack it out, and it doesn't matter if it's missing its last level or it crashes on level 3. Or
it's Count Duckula 2.
Or you can't jump, yeah, on Count Duckula 2. Or it won't respond at all, home runner.
Yeah.
And we carry on. But I always say,
which game was it? Was it? They reduced the time limit on. Was it RoboCop 2 on Commodore? They reduced the time limit on one level because they hadn't programmed the final level, so they just made it impossible to get there.
Yes, I think it crashes deliberately as well. It corrupts as well.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny.
You wouldn't get away with that these days. You'd have people attacking you on Twitter.
Yes, yeah, you would, and the game developers would be dragged over the coals for it.
And to be honest with you, it would be one of those situations where that would actually be justified. So you're selling a product you know isn't finished.
I think back then, because they were so mass produced and at more reasonable prices, we kind of let it slide, didn't we? And it was never going to be.
Did. Most people never got to the end anyway.
Exactly. I mean, the trapdoor. I discovered that bug in the trapdoor, and I was like, well, did anyone get to that point in the trapdoor where they found this bug that you couldn't actually complete the game?
I know I didn't.
Yeah. Well, I never got that far back in the day. I think I managed to complete 2 of the tasks before the thing upstairs got too pissed off of you and binned you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you and I got to about the same point. I could do 2. I could never get all the bits for the 3rd.
Well, I could never do the Slimies one back then because I couldn't catch the bastards in the basement.
Yes. Oh, trying to get the worms into the pie.
I couldn't catch them. So, after hours of practice as an adult, managed to do it. But that was a good game, though.
It was fantastic. I adored that game.
It was a good one.
It was like playing a cartoon.
I like some of the cartoon games on the Amstrad. They really worked, didn't they? Obviously, we talk, the obvious ones like Dizzy and stuff, but some of them really worked. Roadrunner was pretty good.
Never played it. Yeah. I never liked Roadrunner as a cartoon, so I never bothered with the game. It's one of those things.
The Simpsons port weren't too bad as well.
I would have loved to have got that. I played Bart versus the Space Mutants on the Amiga at one of my friends' houses and loved it, but I could never find a copy on the Amstrad. It was so annoying. I went out and tried to find it. I found Monty Python's Flying Circus. I never found Bart Simpson.
I've got a copy of both.
I'm happy to say I've still got my copy of Monty Python, but I never found Bart versus the Space Mutants. I should track that down.
Yeah, I think it's available. You'll be able to find it on eBay or something, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. You can find everything on eBay these days. It's ridiculous what you can find on there.
Especially at some of the prices, some of the ridiculous prices. So I love the way that sometimes you get I think Turbo the Tortoise. They try and sell that at like 300 quid or something. It's like, what?
No, I just look at my copy and think, but I got it for $2.99.
I know. I don't have a copy of that. I'm jealous.
It's not bad. It's worth it if you can play it on your. I know you've got an SD card reader, haven't you?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, put it on there. Fantastic game. It's definitely worth a play.
Yeah. Oh, I'll whack it on there. I'll whack it on there.
And that's the advantage these days with the extra hardware you can add to your system.
Yes.
The Amstrad's never been more available.
Yes, yeah. Well, this is another sort of tantamount to the retro tech, especially when we were talking about the 8-bits. They've got so many options now to upgrade them with these modern retro mods. It's quite something.
It's wonderful. It's literally breathed new life into the Amstrad. Marcus Homan keeps sending me these demos he's done. If you've got a 4 megabyte expansion, which is just ridiculous to put on an Amstrad, but if you've got a 4 megabyte expansion and you've got the SD card reader, then you can watch music videos with full motion video.
Yes, he sent me one of those, and I did a bit of testing for him because there was a bug in it. He wanted to see if it was happening, so he wanted me to test it on a couple of the SD readers that I've got, and I don't know what happened to that in the end, but I know that it wasn't running for me, but he was trying to debug it, I think.
Yeah, I think he sent me the fixed copy then because I was watching it and my jaw was just on the floor. I dreamed of this as a kid.
Yeah.
And now it's here. It works. It's just wonderful.
It's just amazing what they can get out of these old machines nowadays. And I don't want to sort of like put a negative on it, but you kind of feel that some of the consoles that in the interim of, say, the modern stuff and the classic stuff, they won't get that kind of love going forward in the future, I feel.
I think you're probably right. A lot. And I can understand why. I mean, we get the occasional game that turns up that shocks everyone on Dreamcast because they're so wonderful. I don't see people going that in depth on the Nintendo 64.
Yes.
Because I get the impression a lot of people think, well, GoldenEye already showed just what that thing can do and stuff like that. No, you don't get it. There's always more to it, and if you're willing to put the time in, you can get it. But the Amstrad's had 30 years of people loving it.
Yeah.
I don't think that consoles have the same thing because they're such short-lived machines. You have it, and you play games for 5 or 6 years, then you move on to the next one. That's kind of how they're developed, and that's the mentality around them. Whereas with the Amstrad and the Spectrum, this was a thing you got to know, and you got to know in depth. It wasn't just you turned it on, you played a bit of Space Invaders, then you went off and had your tea. And some people did that, but you had to know what to do just to load Space Invaders, which already is getting you a bit further into it. And just putting the disc in and press and play.
Yeah. I mean, it captures the audience, doesn't it, really? That kind of thing.
Absolutely. You have to interact with this machine and get to know it just to get anything out of it at all.
Yeah. For it to reward you, you've got to reward it, as it were.
Exactly. It's a give and take. And you don't get that on consoles.
No. Yeah, that you know what? That is a very prophetic way to end, I think. That was a lovely, lovely little montage you said there. It's brilliant. I love that.
Well, thank you. I have my moments.
You do indeed. So I think we will wrap that up there. Zoë Kirk-Robinson, thank you very much for coming on the Amscast.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much for inviting me, and I hope I'm not too hard to edit.
No, you'll be perfectly fine to edit. It's been lovely hearing your stories, hearing about your cartoon stuff, your stand-up comedian, your political career, and I wish you all success in the future in whatever of them avenues you wish to continue on.
Thank you very much.
And
I hope that you and your channel go from strength to strength.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I mean, and same goes for you. I want to see more new Gamehammer episodes. I'm sure you've got a few ideas for the future.
Just a few.
Just a few. We will see that. So everybody, go to subscribe to Zoë. I will leave the link in the description box down below. And like I say, again, I'll say a final farewell to thank you very much, Zoë Kirk-Robinson, for coming on the Amscast. And I will say, Novabug, out.